Hello, hope everyone's having a good day and ready to see another video in the series I call Underrated Throwers. This is a technical analysis of Marcus Thomsen, coached by the great Vastina Stuyson, who's known for coaching gold medalist class discus throwers, 70-meter discus throwers. But he also has put out a couple really good shot putters in the years he's been coaching. I chose this video in particular, one, because this isn't his PR by any means, but I think it illustrates a lot of problems that a lot of people struggle with. This still went over 20 meters, but there's a lot of, well, not a lot, there's a couple things that I think he could have improved on technically in this throw to make it go even further. So we'll watch it a couple times. Very rhythmic. Very, very fast. Alright, let's get to the good part. The analysis. Alright, first thing I want to start off with, is he starts offset. What I mean is that his left foot is lined up with the middle of the toe board instead of like right here, which is like a traditional style. And I think I think Tom Walsh popularized this kind of technique, because when he started throwing really, really far, people started doing this because I think it's really advantageous for short throwers who aren't really that strong compared to how far they throw, because this allows you to get a lot more momentum out of the back because you're just turning longer, so you're able to build up more speed and more power. Like right here, he would already be, if he was starting like over here, he would be in the sprint phase facing the middle and already going, but now he has all this other time to go. Okay. I will say a warning about this. Do not do this kind of technique unless you're already pretty consistent with the traditional style, because this requires a lot more patience out of the back and a lot more ankle mobility and strength to be able to pull this off consistently and get the benefits out of it. And I will say it will take some time. Like, I've been starting to do this. It's taken me about a month to get kind of consistent, about like month and a half to get consistent with this out of the back. I will say when I started doing this, I kept just pulling at the front and then finishing down this sector, the right sector, if you're facing this way. So it takes a while to get your release back and line it up, because it's going to feel super weird coming out of the back. But eventually you will see the benefits. But I would recommend practicing this more in the off season, where you should be making these kind of technical changes anyway. But let's continue. He gets really, really nice weight over his left. He's stacked almost perfectly. Because his armpit, knee, and ankle are all in line with each other. And that allows him to be really balanced over his left side. Now, the one thing that he could have done a little better is maybe get his hip kind of dives a little bit back. Like, he kind of shoots his butt out like a little bit with his left hip. And that's going to create some problems at the front. And the other thing I want to point out is, look how long he keeps his right leg this leg on the ground, and it really creates Vasilius Tyson really focuses on a backwards V is what he calls it, or he wants a really wide knees out of the back and to keep that for as long as possible, because what that does is that creates a lot of torque and separation between the two hips, which allows you to just whip around and uses a lot more momentum and speed without necessarily exerting that much energy, because you're just letting your body do the work and you're not forcing it. Now again, this is a really hard thing to do, a really advanced thing to do, and throwers have been successful with it coming up like here, with the right foot, I mean, coming up here, or even keeping it longer on the ground, which is insane. The other thing I really like is look how patient he is. And he's not sprinting until this left foot, oops, that's a bad line. Until this left foot faces the middle of the sector. And now he sprints. Now he does kind of over rotate a little, just a little bit. And a lot of people will say that this left arm should be more like in line with this right elbow, like more up and not facing down. But if you notice, he winds like this. He winds, keeps it down. So it's following this orbit. It's following this trajectory. So he's following an orbit. He's just created an exaggerated orbit. Because if you notice, he releases it pretty high. Okay? As long as your shoulders are in line, it doesn't really matter. You're still going to get a pretty decent release. You know, Gerd Kanter, his high point was way up here. But what he also did was he released it up at the same level of his high point. So you notice, so his right shoulder, well, his right elbow, right here, oops, his right elbow right here. Now he's going to look at right elbow the same height. So he's following his orbit. As long as you follow your orbit, you're going to be perfectly fine. And that's same in shot and disc. Alright, well, let's get back to the middle. Okay, middle. So he touches down right there with his right foot. I want you to notice how important this is, this sprint phase. So right there, he's in his flight phase, which means both feet are off the ground. Keeps going, keeps going. When his right grounds, his left foot has almost caught up to this. This is when you know you've done a sprint correctly. When you really do a sprint correctly, your right foot and left foot should almost be in line. Your left foot would most likely be a little behind. And what this does is it makes his left foot, I mean, he actually grounds kind of early. So he's kind of blocked off because he kind of stopped the rotation a little with his right foot, which is caused by him over rotating. So he kind of lands like, so his right foot's facing this way. So he kind of, so his right heel, actually his right heel doesn't really come down because it just lands like that. But because his right foot landed facing that way, it's going to be harder for it to turn longer. So, and because he had such a hard sprint out of the back, he wants to keep turning his right, but since his left is already down, he has no choice but to finish, and instead of really getting a good wrap. So he lands like a little bit open, a little bit. See, because what you want is your right foot. Well, ideally, you would want your right foot to face the back of the ring, like towards this camera. Or when you land that, you would want your right, realistically right there. Very few could actually get it down here, but realistically you want it facing this the way it's facing right now. So that way it can keep turning and your left foot will land somewhere like here. So then you're not blocked off, and you can actually you can rotate your hips longer and stay grounded longer and produce more energy, which would lead to further throws. Okay. But right here, and what I mean by blocked off, so you see how his feet are basically in a straight line. So this is what we call blocked off, or blocked off would also be if like his left foot was like in front, was like on this side instead of this side. So that what that does is now he can't really turn his hip forward all the way, so he lifts up kind of early with his right foot so he doesn't get that much rotation off his right foot. See, like it kind of rotates a little more and then starts to pick up while it's still in his hand. But ideally, yeah, you would want it a little over here. But again, this is caused by the left hip shooting out just like a teeny bit. But what really does it is that he over rotates out of the back, so he lands kind of heavy with his right. And because he did a really hard sprint, when you over rotate and do a really hard sprint, you're gonna land blocked off like 90% of the time. Now the way to fix that is just keep trying to rotate your right foot as much as possible and try not to stop it the second it touches the middle, or just practice just not over rotating, which is more ideal. And then what you want, okay, so back to this. What he does very well, even though he's blocked off and he's not producing a lot of energy right now, that because he basically landed in a position that he can't really. What he also does really well, and what saves this throw, is he's staying on it really well, and he still holds a really, really nice left side block. It doesn't really matter that much that your right foot stays on the ground for a super long amount of time, as long as you have it timed up where your left foot is still on the ground. What that tells you is that now you're producing energy forward and up, which is what you want, because that's what creates a reverse. You'll see a lot of elite throwers, and their right foot does not stay on the ground as long as you would think. Because, I mean, if your right foot just stayed on the ground the entire time, all you would do is just get out, and you would never get any up whatsoever. You would just rotate, and you wouldn't go forward. You wouldn't go that very far, because you wouldn't get that much rotation, and you wouldn't be getting up. When the right foot leaves the ground, but the left foot stays on, I know it's hard to see because he's landed in line. His left foot's on the ground right now. So what he did from here, right foot off the ground, basically right here. So now all he's doing now is going forward and up. Now notice that his right knee is bent. You never want to extend both knees in the throw, in disc or shot, because what that will do basically is then you're just jumping up. you want your left leg to straighten for the block while you're keeping this right knee bent, because you still rotate. Don't get me wrong. You still rotate, and then at the last second, you go forward. Okay? So notice how when he reverses, he's not super up in the air. He's just kind of replacing his feet. He's not going up and just jumping. And the other thing he does really well is while he's holding this left side, the only thing moving right now is his right arm, basically. I mean, his right, like his momentum's going forward, but the fastest thing right now is his right arm, which is what you want. That's how you know you've hit a really good block. If the fastest part of your throw is your release, which is the ideal. You don't want your body moving faster than your arm. You don't want the fastest thing that should be moving is your right arm, or if you're a lefty, left arm. Because that just means you put all the energy you created throughout the entire throw, you put it into your arm. Right there. Really, really nice block. And notice how his head isn't facing this way or anything. It's still, even though you see some elite throwers and their head will still be facing, they'll be facing this way. But if you look at them from the front, their eyes will still be on the shot put. So they're still staying on it, and they're not pulling away. So right there, you can tell a little cheat. So his left foot grounds like right there. Now because he over-rotated and he was blocked off, he didn't get ideal block. So his right foot replaced right here when his left grounded like there. Which is what's going to happen, and that's why he got kind of like a glide reverse where he just kind of stuck it. And that's why he finished on this sector, because his hips his right hip could only turn that way instead of down the middle. So, but a really, really, really great throw. Really great throw. And I hope this helps people. I hope I'm getting better at these. I'm doing these off the fly. These are not scripted or anything. And yep, I hope everyone has a good day. Happy Easter, and yeah.